Welcome everyone, and thank you for taking the time to attend part 2 of our Business Foundations for Architects and Designers webinar. I'm delighted that you can join us, and I hope that we can provide some insight and support to you all today. We're going to keep this at a high level and we'll try and keep it to roughly 20 to 30 minutes, but if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and we can provide individual support to you. The key objective of this session will be to introduce you to the principle of business foundations that should be in place in order to establish, build and sustain your firm. When you're working in a studio, typically your focus will be on project design and delivery and management of clients. But there are many other elements of managing, controlling and building a business that leaders require an intimate understanding of in order to cultivate success. And I'm sure you all know there are significant differences between managing a business and designing and delivering of projects. To recap what we discussed in our previous webinar, through our years of industry experience, we've had the opportunity to identify a number of common themes that we see throughout successful architectural businesses, a selection of which you can see on the screen. Note that not every successful firm will have all of these qualities, but they will almost certainly display a majority of them. So have a look at this list and then reflect on your own practice. Where are you strong? And what are your best qualities? And once you've identified what you should continue to do, you can also identify areas where you're lacking or need support in order to improve. So what are the elements that will create and build successful architectural businesses, and how do you get there? We have categorized the requirements into 10 foundations. The first 5 were covered in part 1 of this webinar series, and we're happy to send this through if you missed it. In today's session, we'll focus on the remaining 5 elements, those being skills and expertise. That's about having a great team around you, which can mean about hiring for cultural fit first and skill second. Risk management. What are the mechanisms you have in place for reducing your risk? Marketing, communications, and brand. How will you connect your existing and potential clients to your business? Design, innovation, and delivery. It's about effective design management and finding a balance between creative freedom and a consistent way of working. Succession planning. This element will come much later in your journey, but it is about identifying and nurturing the next group of leaders, directors of your company. And of course, these foundations will vary in importance to you depending on where you are, where your entity is in its journey.
That's great. Thank you, Carla. So let's start with skills and expertise. It is your job to find and nurture the right talent. If you do not identify and develop the right skills and the right people, you'll be the one who will pay for it in time and in resource. So that in mind, have a think about who's actually doing the hiring and what are they looking for. It is such a key element of success that when hiring employees, we say that you should hire for the cultural fit first and skills second. And when we say culture, it means the way we work as a team. We're diplomatic, we respect the system that exists in the business. We're aspirational. We want everyone to be looking to extend and develop themselves in their career. That is the culture. Developing a clear platform criteria around your expectation for your talent and review them regularly to track and ensure progress. What's working, what's not working, what is their next goal and progression in their career. Your people want to be challenged, supported, and have honest feedback. It is necessary to ensure that leaders spend time educating and mentoring the key people in the business. If you don't do it, no one else will. So let me ask you all, does your firm actively mentor your people in business management? Because if you are, that is amazing. In our experiences, many firms do not actively do this. You need to question and reflect. How do you make this happen? And if it is happening, how do you make it happen consistently? And are you even the best person to do this? Maybe you need a mentor too. Ensuring that the project leaders are also knowledgeable about the project performances, finances, critical of effective project control. And that can lead to a number of benefits across the enterprise. And these include planning and matching the work with the resource and cost, the ability to manage and scope the deliverables. It enables effective pricing and scoping. It's the accountability of performance, identification of areas of business that need improvement, an understanding of what types of projects the company generates the most profit from. Stronger project management contributes to the overall profitability of your firm. And COVID-19 is causing an increasing demand and disruptions in our industry, and it is requiring reskilling in order to step up and adapt. The traditional system of measuring and compensating employees primarily on the number of hours work is due for an overhaul. And changes in landscape within our industry as a whole in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic has provided an opportunity for alternatives to be considered. One of the biggest shifts required will be not judging employees on the number of hours they are present, but rather on their results. While a total priority shift from activity to results might still be far away, the pandemic has been a perfect starting point for accelerating this change, given that most employees have been working remotely and direct oversight of hours spent has become difficult. Now let's move on to risk management. For leaders of practices, risk management may not be the most engaging aspect of running their business, but it is a key to long-lasting success and profitability. What does risk management mean and what does it look like? So you need to surround yourself with the right expertise. You need to adapt strategies and systems to minimize your risk and its exposures, and effective quality control to keep yourself free of unwanted and unnecessary disputes. The subject can feel overwhelming, but the main issues most businesses will encounter can be categorized into three following areas. Firstly, business structure and legals. Then there is client fees and fee negotiations, and finally, insurance. When evaluating your risk management strategy, it is important to ask yourself if your business has the appropriate expertise, strategies, systems, and effective quality control in place to minimize your exposure to risk. Some element of risk will always be out of your control, no matter what you do. But for many firms, risks that they encounter can be managed, reduced, or eliminated entirely with proper planning. All risk management plans follow the same steps, and they combine to make up an overall risk management process. So start with establishing a context. This is understanding the circumstances in which the rest of the process will take place. Next is risk identification. This is when practices identifies and defines potential risks that may negatively influence a specific process or a project. Then you need to do a risk analysis. Once specific types of risks are identified, the practices then determines the odds of them occurring, as well as their consequences. The goal of risk analysis is to further understand each specific instance of a risk and how it could influence the company's projects and its objectives. Then we move on to risk assessment and evaluation. The risk is then further evaluated after determining the risk's overall likelihood of occurrence combined with the overall consequence. The company can then make a decision on whether the risk is acceptable and whether the company is willing to take it on board based on its risk appetite. During the risk mitigation step, practices need to assess the highest rank risks and develop a plan to alleviate them using specific controls. These plans include risk mitigation process, risk prevention tactics, and contingency plans in the event that risks come into the fruition. Risk monitoring. Part of the mitigation plan includes following up on both risks and the overall plan to continuously monitor and track new and existing risk. The overall risk management process should also be reviewed and updated accordingly. And finally, you need to communicate and consult. Both internal and external shareholders should be included in communication and consultation at each appropriate step of the risk management process in regards to the process as a whole as well. You also need to bear in mind there are limitations to risk management process. Two of them being there's a lot of data gathering required, and that data and decision-making process may also have poor outcomes if simple indicators are used to reflect a much more complex reality of a situation. Simply adopting a decision through a whole project process, which was intended for one small aspect, can lead to unexpected results. Risk management strategy should also attempt to answer the following questions. What can go wrong? Consider both the workplace as a whole and individual work. How will it affect the organization? Consider the probability of the event and whether it will have a large or small impact. What can be done? What steps can be taken to prevent the loss? What can be done to recover if a loss does occur? And if something happens, how will the practice pay for it? After the practice's specific risks are identified and risk management process has been implemented, there are different strategies you can take in regard to different types of risks. There is risk avoidance. While a complete elimination of all risk is rarely possible, a risk avoidance strategy is designed to deflect many threats as possible in order to avoid costly and disruptive consequences of a damaging event. Secondly, there is risk reduction. Companies are sometimes able to reduce the amount of damage certain risks can have on a company process. This is achieved by adjusting certain aspects of an overall project plan or a company process, or by reducing the scope. You can also do something called risk sharing. This is when the consequence of a risk can be shared or distributed among several of the project participants or business departments. The risk can also be shared with third parties such as suppliers or other business partners. Finally, there is risk retaining. Sometimes companies decide a risk is worth it and decide to keep a risk and deal with any potential fallout. Companies will often retain a risk level if a project's anticipated profit is greater than the cost of the potential risk. So now moving on to marketing and branding. So marketing is designed as a set of tools, process, and strategies you use to actively promote your service and your practice. Winning work should be a singular focus of your marketing efforts. When evaluating your marketing strategies, you do need to assess whether what you're doing is valuable use of your time and resource, and whether or not it will contribute meaningfully to the goal of attracting new clients and winning projects. Branding is your identity. It is what defines your company and what sets it apart from its competitors. When properly implemented, good branding fully explains who your company is, what it does, what it's seeking to accomplish. In essence, your brand is the reason for being, the reputation and the concept that drives sales and influences clients. A brand comes first. It's your first introduction to your clients, the impressions that they're left with when a sale is complete and the value they're going to be offered during the project process. A brand doesn't try to sell your business, it is your business. The two concepts are intertwined. Proper marketing and brand work hand in hand. Marketing can be a great way to get your customers' attention, but branding is a way to keep it. People still want to do businesses with a brand they can get behind, brands that they believe in. Good marketing will get your brand in front of the right people, and strong brand will create the connection that leads to wins and loyalties. All this in mind, you need to be thinking about marketing in terms of two elements: business development and communication. Business development will be the how of winning work, and communication will be the vehicle for building brand awareness and connection. As a starting point, you should have a marketing strategy with a written plan that is agreed upon by your leadership teams. You must articulate your value proposition, document your keys to your success, your revenue projections by sector, and what investments you have in place. Another aspect of increasing brand awareness is the utilization of social media. Through it, it can advocate and develop an online community that will contribute to the positioning of your practice in the market moving forward. The key to successful marketing strategy is having a robust and a reliable marketing plan in place, and that is adhered to. A good marketing plan will help you understand who you are and who your desired client base is. Communicate a consistent message to your ideal clients, track your costs and measure value, and in doing so, charts your success. It will also help with focusing your business and capture your thinking on paper, which becomes a document for you to build upon. And it will also reflect the big picture, where your marketing and brand awareness is and where do you want it to be. When shaping your marketing plan, there are some questions you need to reflect upon as they form the base of your plans moving forward. Questions like, how are you positioned in the market? What makes you unique? How do your clients see you? Be honest. Who are your target market? What are your strengths and weaknesses? What are the emerging market threats, trends, and opportunities? What are your existing opportunities? Are there dozens or hundreds? Name the top 3, 4, or 5. Have a focus. And what is your marketing budget? So on to the next foundation, which is design, innovation, and delivery. Of the 10 foundations, this would be the area which you will be better versed than me. And having said all of that, effective design management should be a core value of your practice. However, business leaders do find it hard to explain and articulate the process, or at least struggle with a consistent response through the studio. This is often because architects are creatives and they consider management as somewhat counterintuitive or counter to design innovation, and don't necessarily embrace management or even design management. However, effective design management finds a balance between creative freedom and management systems, and your process shouldn't be onerous and should allow for flexibility. So where do you start? Well, our suggestion is that you start with trying to capture the central idea that's going to flow through the entire project from design to construction. As it's going to go through a whole series of people and teams, it is important it's not lost through translation through its journey. To capture a central idea, it can be done by multiple ways, by photography, sketches, president projects, but the key is to make sure the team embraces it and continuously refers to it. You need to develop a methodology for assessing your design at various stages of your project, i.e. post-concept, end of a schematic design, and at the end of the project. Effective design management allows your business to ensure you've got consistency of process to capture and deliver the design intent and maximize the value to your key stakeholders. It also helps with your relationship with your client because obviously it's something that they can engage with as well. It builds your brand and marketing efforts. And not only that, it improves your financial performance. We often find that ineffective design management is one of the major causes of rework within a studio. Unresolved design work, design changes can be the biggest issue for most studios. For example, a design review occurs late and someone comes in, changes things, and the design is not fully resolved and we've already started to draw before it is. That rework based on design changes is one of the major causes of loss of productivity in a studio. So, we can talk about reduced fees and competitive pressures being challenges, but at the same time, internal issues such as this undermines your productivity and your overall business performance. So let me ask you, Does your studio have a plan for the design stages of a project? A plan that identifies the key activities, when they need to occur, the milestones, the responsibility, when reviews occur, what's outstanding? And how do you currently embed that culture and discipline of design management within your business? It requires leadership, especially around regular design reviews, explaining to your people around the necessity of strong, consistent, and communicated central idea, or the big idea, and how it is captured, and regular presentation and critiquing of your work. The leaders need to show the way. Typically, as your business becomes larger, you'll be increasingly reliant on developing and following ways of working that are consistent, methodical, and aligned with your studio's culture. Effective design management threads the needle of creative freedom and consistency. So succession is our last foundation, both in this presentation and from a real world context. In order for succession to be an ongoing concern, businesses must be sustainable and mature enough to warrant such a longitudinal plan. There are two elements to succession. There is leadership succession and ownership succession. The former can be far more complex than the latter. Leadership succession is focused on the development of the next generation of leadership within your organization. These are the people who will take on the role of growing, building, and controlling your business in the future. It can be a tricky proposition in our industry, as quite often leaders of practices are the key initiators of design innovation and client relationship. These skills are not necessarily able to be taught, rather than it's something of an inherent have or have not. Some skills that make successful leaders so successful can also hinder this transition. It can be very difficult for leaders to let go of the reins in decision-making around clients and the design direction of the practice. There can be great financial and personal reward in leadership succession. Investing in giving your key people exposure to your business with clear expectations and responsibility can give you an edge over other practices in your space. Whereas ownership succession is a legal, financial, and accounting issue. Ownership and leadership succession are intrinsically linked but present different challenges. The biggest challenge of ownership succession is that it can make how to make ownership attractive. Younger talent may not be interested or able to even buy into a firm. A culture must be fostered to create a mindset of ownership, meaning opportunity rather than hindering commitment that talent doesn't want to take on. Succession should be a plan in action. We often find that instead it's executed in a rather sporadic and ad hoc manner. In our experiences, businesses that do have a successful transition of owners and principals have done so through years of cultivating a culture that enables seamless and natural succession. The potential gains from doing succession plannings will go far beyond the obvious results of having a steady pipeline of leaders ready to step into a new role. For example, your business will also have access to a more diverse portfolio of leaders, a higher quality decisions around promoting development investments due to a more effective use of the data organization, and you're able to make informed choices. There's also the enhanced career development opportunity for emerging leaders, a stronger organizational culture due to enhanced ability to advance as leaders will embody the organization's stated beliefs. Research has found that at least 30% of newly hired leaders fail within the first 18 months, mostly because of a poor cultural fit. Greater organization stability and resilience, which breeds market confidence and drives better shareholder value as well. But succession planning is not without its challenges. By its very nature, succession planning efforts will take years to bear fruit. While current leaders are typically rewarded based largely on short-term accomplishment, it requires a mindset shift. and forward thinking without immediate gratification, it can also feel destabilizing or even threatening. Too often, succession planning is minimized because organizations don't want the process to be perceived as a lack of confidence in their current leadership team. Also, in the same vein, leaders themselves are reluctant because they don't want to raise the idea, because that could be signaling their intention to exit or abandon the practice. And often there is no clarity of who is responsible for the planning and the grooming of the successors. Does it sit with HR or does it sit with the business leader? Who is actually accountable? Regardless of whether there is objective leadership data, many organizations still default to a subjective or political succession decision based on factors such as likability, sponsorship, or even tenure. Discarding every factor, the key element that is missing in most practices is the simple fact that there is no methodology or tool surrounding succession planning. And firms need to really think and reflect on how to put a plan in place.
Thanks, Sim. To conclude, I want to reinforce the real essence of business in architecture is that you need to focus on your business rather than in your business. Focusing the foundation of your business creates a model for success. Always ask yourself, are you the right or the best person for doing this work? And is it why you went into business? Is it fulfilling you? You need to make decisions about the type of business you want to build. Are you building yourself a business, or are you just creating a job for yourself? Can you step away from the business without it falling over? Try to think of your business as the real product of your work and design your business to deliver great business outcomes. So what is your business like now? Have a look at the different foundations and mark them out of 10. Where do you currently sit? Create a benchmark and look at the areas you need to improve. There is so much satisfaction that you can realize by designing and building a business, and you have the ability to influence so many lives through it, your own, your family, your people, and your partners. So what's next? So we've provided a lot of information today, so don't just file this information away in your brain. Make sure you're holding yourself accountable to enact positive changes in the way you manage your business and succeed in the future. I understand that if you don't currently have systems and processes in place, making a start can be the hardest part, but you don't have to go it alone. There is support if you need it. So email me, ask questions, be curious, and be open to learning. And for the first 20 webinar attendees to reach out, we'll provide a complimentary review of your numbers to help you get moving in the right direction. So there we have it, the second 5 business foundations. And that's what Management for Design brings to the industry and to you. By working with us, you'll put in place strong business foundations. That's what we do, that's our expertise. Please find on screen the different areas that Management for Design can help support your business. If any of these apply to you, please do reach out. Thank you all for giving us your time and attention, and I hope that you feel some pride in having taken the first steps toward building and controlling your business. Please find our contact details on the screen, and we'll forward the webinar presentation in the next few days and reach out on a one-on-one basis. In the meantime, we'd love to hear from you, so please do reach out and pop any questions in the Q&A section. Back to you, Melanie.
Thank you both. That was really insightful and really interesting. So thank you both. We have gone past half 12, but I mean, Carla, are you open to a few questions if anyone has them?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think if they pop them in the question Q&A section, then we can follow up with emails. Absolutely.
Okay. If anyone wants to pop any questions up now, do so, and I can log. Alternatively, we've got Carla and Sim's details up there. I suspect some of the answers, as I said at the beginning of the session, will be quite sort of lengthy. So no one's come up with anything just yet, but yeah, the details are there. Please take the time to contact them directly if you've got any questions, even if it's to do with part 1, which we had a couple of weeks ago. But anyway, if there's anything to do with the topics that we've just covered, again, obviously get those ready and send them over, and they'll be more than happy to take the time to answer. There's no questions coming up now, so what I will do is I'll end the session now. So thank you very much for joining. I do hope those that participated and spent the half hour with us found it interesting, informative. Thank you again for joining. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm going to stop the recording now. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.